They began 2 weeks ago. People were protesting against the new tax hikes in Kenya. The Kenyan government had proposed them in the annual finance bill, which is the annual bill, but many in Kenya were against the tax hike, so they took it to the streets. These protests were led by the young people, and they mostly were peaceful. The protesters just wanted to put pressure on the government, and it worked. Kenya President William Ruto withdrew his financial bill. The people got what they wanted, and it came at a high price. The Kenyan police have been clashing with the demonstrators, and more than 39 protesters have died as a result. This has led to a widespread anger which was visible during yesterday, that is 2 days protest too. Let us watch. Those were empty coffins. Protesters in the capital of Nairobi placed them on the roads. It symbolizes their anger against police brutality. But it seems like the police did not care because they clashed again with the protesters. Take a look at this, whatever happened yesterday. It looks like a war zone. The police are firing tear gas, rubber bullets, and sometimes even live ones. And Kenya's President William Ruto tried to justify this. Listen in.
I sell clothes and shoes. I can't accept you to send me back home. Now it is a must that I defend myself.
I have kids like they do. And I care when there are issues in town where criminals can take advantage of situations and create a situation where the police have to use rubber bullets, the police have to use live bullets in some cases, because that is what an independent police service has to do.
President Ruto stated that criminals were taking advantage of the peaceful protests. Looters were mixing with the crowd and were wreaking havoc. He's not wrong about this. As on Tuesday again, that was yesterday, some people in plain clothes were seen carrying weapons. And this is Kenya, not the United States. Openly carrying firearms is not a common thing in Nairobi. Some business owners in Kenya capital shuttered their shops on Tuesday. Some of them set up patrols. They carried wooden clubs to scare away the looters. Listen in.
I sell clothes and shoes. I can't accept you to send me back home. Now it is a must that I defend myself and my business, and that is why I am carrying this baton, and I will do anything to protect my business.
Some bad faith actors have infiltrated the demonstrations. The once peaceful protests are turning increasingly violent. It is causing the organizers to rethink their strategy. Critics believe that the bad actors have been planted by the government to give the police an excuse to crack down on the protesters, but they don't have a concrete proof of it yet. Some of the organizers want it delayed to delay the next demonstrations. Remember, the protests are scheduled for every Tuesday and Thursday. So the next one would take place, that was today. But instead, some of the protesters want to recess the situation. After all, the protests have been transformed over the weeks. They began with a call to reject the year's financial bill, which has been successful. The new demonstrations do not seem to have an end goal for now. Many are calling for the president, that is President William Ruto, to resign, but he has not shown any signs of doing so. Kenya's next presidential election will be taking place in 2027. If the protesters want him out, perhaps they should do so via the ballot. And if not, they may be looking at a long battle ahead. Landmark move reflecting South Africa's evolving political landscape. President Cyril Ramaphosa unveiled a coalition cabinet following the African National Congress ANC loss of its parliamentary majority in May 29th elections. The most notable appointment was that of former opposition leader John Steenhuisen as the Minister of Agriculture. Underscoring a commitment to cross-party collaboration, Ramaphosa underlined the diversity of the cabinet and the establishment of a new electricity ministry to tackle the court's persistent power of creating and solving the crisis. Let us get the full report.
Decisive move reflecting South Africa's evolving political landscape, President Cyril Ramaphosa has unveiled a coalition cabinet following the African National Congress loss of parliamentary majority. The appointment of former opposition leader John Steenhuisen as Minister of Agriculture underscores a commitment to cross-party collaboration. Ramaphosa highlighted the cabinet's diversity and the establishment of a new electricity ministry to tackle the country's power crisis, marking a significant shift towards inclusive governance and strategic unity in addressing national challenges.
It is important that we deploy into positions of responsibility people who are committed, capable and hardworking, and who also have integrity. We've had to ensure that all the parties are able to participate meaningfully in the national executive, as well as in various parliamentary positions, and that they should represent the diversity of the people of South Africa.
The formation of this new coalition cabinet marks a significant shift in South African politics and sets the stage for a new era of reform and cooperation despite the challenges that lie ahead. Here is what the people of South Africa had to say as well.
Philosophies, I'm not really confident about it, but then they say the people of South Africa have spoken. Is that what they say they wanted? That's my question. I don't really support it fully, but hey, what can we do?
While there are certainly hurdles to overcome, the diversity and spirit of partnership within the cabinet offer hope for a brighter future for South Africa as the world watches closely to see how this unique coalition government navigates the path forward.
United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with the Haitian Prime Minister Gary Conil and the Foreign Minister Dominique Dupuy, emphasizing the United States support for Haiti's newly appointed government. Conil, the new Prime Minister, expressed gratitude for the United States support and solidarity as he worked to form a government to address the Haiti's security challenges, including gang violence that has displaced over 300,000 children. Conil told the United States that the arrival of the Kenya police marked a new era for restoring security, but finding that the UN mission had lagged. The Dominican Republican appealed for the countries to fulfill their funding pledges before the mission mandate ends in October. Listen in.
Haïti se trouve à un moment critique.
Haiti is currently at a critical point with 12,000 armed individuals holding a population of 12 million hostages. At this decisive juncture, no project, be it economic or political, can be tackled without addressing the security issue. For that reason, my government welcomes the implementation of commitments made in Resolution 2699 regarding the multinational security support mission. The deployment of the first contingents of police officers alongside Haitian law enforcement agencies should help put a stop to the barbarity of criminal groups.
Il va contribuer à mettre un frein au barbarisme des groupes criminels.
Moving on to Egypt, Egypt has sworn in a new cabinet to tackle mounting economic challenges and regional conflicts. Key changes included new ministers for foreign affairs, defense, finance, tourism, and electricity. The change comes as the country faces mounting public discontent following years of economic mismanagement, the coronavirus pandemic, and the fallout of the wars in Europe and the Middle East. The government currently faces high inflation, public discontent, and the fallout from regional tensions, while the new cabinet must address Egypt, the economic woes, and navigate the complex regional dynamics. Moving on to Mauritania, Mauritania is grappling with deadly unrest in the wake of its recent presidential election, as clashes between security forces and protesters have left at least 3 people dead and several others injured. Tensions erupted following President Mohamed Ould Ghazouani's victory declaration, triggering widespread demonstration and accusations of electoral fraud from opposition figures. The violence has spotlighted deep-seated political divisions in the country, where the stability remains at a critical concern amid its ongoing allegations of corruption and human rights abuses. Here's a full report.
In the outcome of Mauritania's presidential election, violent clashes between security forces and protesters have claimed the lives of at least 3 individuals, as confirmed by authorities on Tuesday. The protests erupted following the declaration of President Mohamed Ghazouani's victory, which marked his re-election for a second term in office. Tensions escalated swiftly after Ghazouani's comfortable win in the first round of voting, triggering demonstrations across the capital city of Nouakchott and several other regions. The second-place candidate, Biramda Abeid, a prominent anti-slavery activist, swiftly denounced the election results as fraudulent, alleging widespread irregularities in the voting process, and he called for peaceful protests and gatherings in response to what he termed as massive fraud in the electoral process. In response to the escalating violence, authorities in Mauritania moved to block mobile internet access and vowed to apprehend those responsible for the unrest. The Electoral Commission, backed by international observer missions, dismissed allegations of irregularities, asserting that the election was conducted peacefully and transparently. The recent violence highlights the fragile political landscape in Mauritania, where grievances over electoral transparency and governance persist among opposition factions. As tensions remain high, the government's response and international scrutiny will be crucial in determining the country's path forward in the aftermath of these contentious elections.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese leader Xi Jinping have gathered in Astana, Kazakhstan for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO summit, with the 2 leaders hailing the regional body as crucial counterweight to Western influence, underlining that their cooperation aimed to benefit their peoples rather than confront any specific adversary. Ahead of this meeting was Xi Putin had bilateral talks with other regional leaders, underscoring SCO's ambitions to shape the Eurasian geopolitics. The summit is also poised to admit Belarus as a full member, further expanding the bloc. Here's a full report.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping have convened in Astana for a pivotal Shanghai Cooperation Organization SCO summit, underscoring their deepening partnership. They hailed the SCO as a vital counterbalance to Western influence globally, emphasizing that their collaboration aims to benefit their peoples rather than target any specific adversary. Jinping referenced the enduring friendship guiding Sino-Russian ties amidst a complex international landscape. Ahead of his meeting with Xi Jinping, Putin engaged in bilateral talks with regional leaders, highlighting the SCO's ambition to shape Eurasia's geopolitics. As the summit unfolds, global attention remains fixed on how Putin and Xi Jinping navigate regional alliances while strengthening their strategic partnership amid Western pressures. The SCO summit in Astana marks a crucial moment in the deepening partnership between Russia and China. As the 2 countries face increasing pressure from the West, they are solidifying their ties and working to counter Western influence on the global stage. The inclusion of Belarus as a full member and the presence of UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres further underscores the significance of this gathering. As the summit continues, the world will be watching closely to see how Putin and Xi Jinping navigate the complex geopolitical landscape and shape the future of the SCO.
We'll keep you more updated as the summit continues, and that international news brings us to our very first break. Next, we'll talk about the UK general elections 2024 as Rishi Sunak turned to Boris for support. We'll also discuss and check on that. And the elections were done that culminated today at 10 p.m. GMT. We'll keep you more updated. We'll also talk about the stampede in India, as well as the hurricane beryl that has led the Jamaicans bracing for the catastrophic damage on the island. And then we're also going to check about, can Biden be replaced by his nominee? We'll also talk about the question 2. We'll also check about the Iran's low turnout election. What caused it? We'll tell you more about it. And these questions have been making rounds. Will Michelle Obama replace Biden? We have this and more lined up for you shortly after the break. Topics you can't afford to miss. Stay tuned with us.
Bedero Kenya ukiwa na depression ni kupenda kwako. If you are in Kenya, you get a depression ni kutaka tu kwako.
Sasa Uhuru Park tutaiba Simba ama?
Niulize. Bedero kuna Simba ni bebo.
It can affect you and it can affect the community too. So when you hear mental health, just the mental well-being of a person. Yeah.
I think we should also think at some point because we are protesting for a betterment of something else, lakini pia lazima tuangalie tusirudishe shilingi ya Kenya chini, because tukianza kufanya tena our country irudi chini kifedha, ki business wise, it's going to affect us again.
Okay, very much.
Health is not only the absence of disease, but also emotional well-being, social well-being, and physical well-being.
They were jobless even before they became the president.
Hey, man.
But why don't you go on Tuesday? Thursday? I don't know.
So through the 4 gospel books, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John, we can know the heart of Jesus in depth.
그리고 우리가 느끼는 그 예수님을 성경을 통해 느낄 수 있어서 너무 감사합니다.
And the Jesus that we can feel him through the scriptures, and I'm very thankful about that. Jesus Christ came to this earth for our sins.
지셨고,
he carried our sins.
십자가에 못 박혀 죽어 죄의 형벌을 당하셨고,
and he was crucified and he received the punishment for sins.
무덤에 들어가셨다가,
and he was put into the tomb.
사흘 만에 부활하셨습니다.
and resurrected in 3 days.
이것이 우리가 말하는 복음입니다.
This is the gospel that we speak.
예수님께 우리 죄를 위해 죽으신 이야기.
About how Jesus died for our sins. The purpose of Jesus being crucified.
우리 죄를 담당하기 위하여 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으셨습니다.
He was crucified to pay for our sins.
예수 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으심으로 우리 죄가 분명히 씻어졌는데.
And through Jesus being crucified, clearly our sins have been washed clean.
참 안타깝게도 많은 사람은 여전히 죄인이라고 말합니다.
However, unfortunately, many people still say that they are sinners.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back. You are still watching the Ambassador GBS Global, and we are glad to have you, our viewers, join us today. Moving on, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's decision to call for a snap election has set the stage for high-stakes showdown with Labour and the right-wing Reform United Kingdom composed to challenge the Conservative Party's long-standing grip on power against a backdrop of political scandals and shifting voter sentiments. Thursday's election is set to reshape the country's political landscape, with the former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson throwing his support behind Sunak as the campaigning reaches its final today at 10 p.m. Here's the full report.
The United Kingdom braces for its vital 2024 general election on Thursday, with voters across the nation preparing to cast their ballots within a fiercely contested campaign that saw seismic shifts in political fortunes. This election utilizes the first-past-the-post system, where the candidate with the highest number of votes in each constituency wins a seat in parliament, regardless of whether they secure an absolute majority. Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson drew his support behind current Prime Minister Rishi Sunak as campaigning for the UK general election reached its final stages. Johnson joined Sunak at a rally where he rallied Conservative supporters against a projected strong showing by the Labour Party. With polls indicating potential losses for the Conservatives, Sunak emphasized the need for every vote to prevent a Labour supermajority, while Johnson warned against what he termed as the risk of a left-wing Labour government. Analysts suggest that a decisive Labour victory could trigger a period of introspection within the Conservative Party, forcing a re-evaluation of its policies and leadership under the looming shadow of Reform UK's ascendance. Voter turnout, although expected to slightly dip from previous elections, remains a crucial factor in determining the election's final outcome. As the nation stands on the brink of a potentially transformative electoral verdict, all eyes are on the ballot boxes to ascertain the direction in which the UK's political landscape will pivot post-July 4th.
Moving on to India, a massive crowd crash at religious gathering in Hathras, India, has resulted in the deaths of at least 121 people, the vast majority of them being women. The incident occurred on Tuesday when a crowd of over 250,000 devotees of religious leader Suraj Pal, also known as Bole Baba, gathered for a prayer meeting in a village in Hathras, Uttar Pradesh. The stampede was stated to be partly of the results of the poor preparations for the religious gathering by the event organizers and the lack of experts from the authorities. Here is more.
About 80 people have been allowed to enter a field serving as the main venue for the prayer meeting. Chaos erupted when Bo got off stage and left the tent to get into his car after the prayer meeting. Scores of people rushed out the tent towards his car, trampling each other in a bid to touch his feet or the ground he had walked on, according to a police report filed afterwards. Many people were killed in the crash, suffocating to death. Some also fell into an adjacent mud field and were crushed there. The police have registered a first information report against the organizers. The authorities do not know where Bole Baba is, and the police have launched a search.
Everyone is at fault. The religious guru is the first one to be blamed. And what can we say about the work of administration? It's going to be an issue if we say anything about it.
Chief Yogi arrived in Hathras on Wednesday to meet the victims' families. Crowd crashes are fairly common in India, and many of them have occurred at religious gatherings.
Our condolences go to India. Also, let us check on Hurricane Beryl, a powerful Category 4 storm that is barreling towards Jamaica, threatening the island with devastating winds up to 145 mph, that is miles per hour, and the life-threatening storm surge. The hurricane has already caused significant damage and claimed at least 7 lives on smaller islands in the Eastern Caribbean. Here's a full report.
The people of Jamaica are bracing themselves as Hurricane Beryl approaches, with meteorologists warning of dangerous conditions ahead. The storm is expected to bring life-threatening conditions to Jamaica, including strong winds and storm surge to the island, making preparations difficult for residents. In the face of this threat, the United Nations has stepped in to offer assistance to Jamaica and other islands in the region affected by the hurricane. The UN is working with local authorities and agencies to provide aid and support to those in need as they cope with the aftermath of this powerful storm. Additionally, the Prime Minister of Jamaica has issued an evacuation order as a precautionary measure to ensure the safety of residents in the path of the storm.
A careful review of the trajectory of the storm, the likely strength and impact, the potential threats emanating, and having been notified in writing by the Minister responsible for disaster preparedness and emergency management, I am now declaring the whole of Jamaica to be a disaster area in accordance with Section 26 of the Disaster Risk Management Act.
President Biden's shaky performance in the first presidential debate against Donald Trump has hiked up some controversies as it brought about whether Biden can be fit to be able to guide the nation. It has raised concerns among Democrats about his ability to run a robust campaign and lead the party in victory in November. Biden, who is now 81 years of age, struggled to articulate his points and appeared frail, casting doubt on his mental fitness and physical stamina. Jean-Karin Pierre told reporters on Wednesday that Biden was absolutely not dropping out of this Democratic presidential nominee, acknowledging that Biden had a night in debate but stated the focus now was on turning the page with the campaign events and interviewers. Here's the full report.
Knives are out for Joe Biden after his poorly received performance in the first 24 presidential debate against Donald Trump.
Strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security.
Biden was not able to disperse voters concerned about his age during the first presidential debate on June 27. Since then, Biden has blamed his performance on exhaustion from extensive international travel before the debate, and a little bit of calm has settled in.
First of all, it wasn't all. It was, you know, when he was speaking in front of the audience, but it wasn't all. When you think about the tarmac, when you think about engaging at the Waffle House, when you think about engaging at the watch party and doing a very long rope line, and when he was at the tarmac, it was in the middle of the night, literally 2 o'clock at night. We all wanted to go to bed, but the president was certainly very focused and zeroed in on the American people who were out there.
With November's election bearing down, Democrats are panicking over the presidential mental fitness. A congressman from Texas became the first sitting elected party member to call him to step aside. Could Mr. Biden back out now, and who could replace him? If yes, and it's a big if, Mr. Biden decide to retire, it would be relatively straightforward to find another candidate. The party's nominee will officially be chosen at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago from 19 to 22 August. If Mr. Biden willingly drops out, it could turn into a free-for-all. Democrats would be left with an open convention whether they would suggest potential nominees. That could spark a frantic contest among Democrats vying for a shot at the nomination.
Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei denied that the record low voter turnout in the recent presidential election indicated opposition to the ruling system. Only 39.93% of eligible voters participated in the first round, the lowest in the Islamic Republic's history. Khamenei acknowledged that the turnout was lower than expected, but urged Iranians to vote in the runoff. Many abstained due to the disillusionment of the political system and the lack of faith in the candidates. The low turnout is seen as a rebuke of the government crackdown, but Khamenei insisted that it did not represent the opposition to the system itself. Reformist candidate Pezeshkian pledged reforms if elected, but many Iranians remain unconvinced of their vote matters to this matter.
People's participation was not as high as one expects. It was lower than we expected and anticipated. A runoff election will be held on Friday to choose a successor to the late President Ibrahim Raisi, who passed away in a helicopter crash in May.
And that international news brings us to the end of our ambassador. GBS Global. It's been a pleasure having you on board, joining us to the end. Here at the ambassador, we continue to bring you the latest updates and the global developments as you keep it locked with us. I've been your ambassador, Jennifer Macau, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at the ambassador tomorrow, same time, same place, at 1 p.m. I wish you all the most beautiful and a wonderful afternoon. Stay safe.
Everywhere, GBS.